Great, we have it. It's a balance, okay? So you do not want to be a rip off anyone else. Yes, you want to be yourself. However, all the greatest composers had to study from somebody else, right? We do not make things out of thin air. Things are built from other things. The whole point of evolution of creatures, humans, art forms, everything, it's all based off of something else, right? It has to come somewhere, right? So in that sense, I don't think that, you know it's a spectrum. Like I said, it's a balance. You have to be able to know when to channel something and use techniques and know your tools and learn from somebody else, and when to, you know, put in your creativity, bring that out, and be original, right? Part of being original too is not necessarily making things completely out of thin air, but how you use tools that it's like remixing, right? Something like
Yep.
Castle, as iconic as Castlevania, did it come out of thin air? No. It was
No.
actually the way the composers who did that soundtrack, use two super common genres and fuse them together, right? So the Baroque tradition, right? That's
Mhm.
an age-old genre. That's nothing new.
Yep.
Rock music, that was ubiquitous at the time, right? But putting those two things together creates something super new and unique, right? So when we're composers, when we're trying to embark on a creative pursuit, um, you don't have to hold yourself, oh my gosh, I need to come up with something that's revolutionary that no one's heard before. No, I'm sorry, that none of us are going to accomplish that. But what you can do is draw from your favorite influences, learn from those, learn the tools of the trades from the best of your favorite composers, and put them together to shape something that's uniquely yours, right? And that goes to say, again, it all comes down to balance. You do not want to be a ripoff of anyone else. You do want to put out something new and put your own spin to things. Um, and yeah, but don't be shy. Don't shy away from using. Think creatively. Do challenge yourself to be creative, um,
Yep.
while using tools that have worked, right? And again, to your point, if you feel like you sound like Uematsu or blah blah blah, just remember, Nobuo Uematsu wrote a Renaissance track. It is as generic as it gets. Okay, he had to model off of somebody else. What we consider nowadays in our genre a masterpiece, right? Dancing Mad, right? What's that
Yep.
based off of? Bach. That's
Yep.
based off of the whole organ spiel, right? He didn't
Yep.
invent that. That's just Bach transported into video game music format, sort of chopped up into segments that fit the battle theme. It's new and compelling to us because of the context and the way it's used, right? Could he
Yep.
have done that without his fugal writing that he learned, that Uematsu learned from Bach? No, so he had to learn that from someone else, and he was ripping off of Bach too. Going
Yep.
back to the source, well, did Bach invent everything? No. Bach was in fact the most, quote unquote, he was in fact the summation of the music of his day. He did not invent anything. He just compiled it all together and took it to the limit is what he did, right? He didn't invent any new genres. This is right, you know, at the end of the Baroque era before um, the arrival of classical music, when it right before that, right? So all he did was just he just learned everything of his era, of his time. He took all the he took the Vivaldi. He copied, literally copied, hand copied Vivaldi, arranged that stuff, and used that as a backbone and skeleton for him to put his own artistry. So he used Vivaldi as a container. His organ pieces, well, he studied a lot from Buxtehude, who was like the famed organist of his day. Super boring guy. Sorry.
Yep.
Buxtehude is very old, turgid writing. but he used that as a foundation to put his own ideas and create his own voice. So just tell that professor, I mean, retroactively or something, just tell him I know that this sounds like so and so, but I'm in the process of acquiring my technique. So I refer to you, Nobuo Uematsu, who channeled the techniques of Bach. And then if you don't believe me further, just remember Bach also ripped off of Bach. In fact, if that doesn't convince you any further, I took a whole graduate course on the complete works of not complete, the preludes and complete preludes and fugues of Bach. You'll see that
Yep.
every single fugal subject
Yes.
that Bach took was based off of something else, right?
Yep.
He took that
Yep.
from Corelli, the whole three-part texture thing, the prelude. That's just Corelli transported into piano, into keyboard writing, the
Yep.
trios for violin, two violins, and I mean violin, viola, well, two violins, I think, and one cello, transported into piano. So he's copying somebody, right?
Yep.
So Bach was also a copycat, but why is he celebrate? Because that was not all he did, right? He copied, but also put some of his thing in. So it's a constant process. So you're always putting in your own stuff into,
That's
and
that balance you were talking about earlier.
exactly. It's all about balance. So yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, we'll talk about balance in your track, Eric. So be okay, especially in the early phases of when you're acquiring technique. You kind of have to learn to imitate and learn techniques from